They said I was a witch. They poured kerosene on my head, tied me to a tree, and called me a witch. I was only 12, and I had no mother, no father, and nowhere to run. My name is Ejiro, and I was born in Okpako, a small village in Delta State, Nigeria. My mother died when I was 5. I don't even remember how she looked, only that her wrapper smelled of wood smoke and palm oil. My father died when I was 10. He had a cough that wouldn't stop. Some days, he would sit under the mango tree, staring at the sand, too tired to speak. Then one morning, he didn't wake up. They said I was bad luck, that since I came, people started dying in our family. After my father died, my aunt took me in. Her name was Mama Erire, and she sold akara at the market. She told me I had to wake up early to fetch water, sweep the compound, and hawk akara before school. Some days, I did not go to school because I was too tired from hawking. I would sit at the back of the class, eyes closing, while the teacher called my name. But my aunt had 4 children. They were always sick, with fever and cough. The last baby, Essie, cried all night one evening, and before the rooster crowed, she was gone. My aunt looked at me with red eyes that morning. She held Essie close to her chest and rocked her back and forth. She did not cry. She kept looking at me. A week later, I went to fetch water at the stream, and I heard 2 women talking about me. They said, "That girl is a witch. She ate the baby." They said I was the reason my family died, and now I wanted to kill more people. I ran home that day with my heart beating like a drum. The whispers grew. When I walked through the market, women pulled their children away from me. Boys threw sand at me and shouted, "Witch! Witch!" If I tried to pick a falling mango, people would say, "Leave it," before she curses it. One night, I was sweeping the compound when I heard my aunt talking with 2 men. They said, "We have to do it before she kills again." I didn't understand what they meant, but I was scared. That night, I couldn't sleep. Around midnight, they came into the small room where I slept on a mat. They grabbed me, tied my hands, and dragged me outside. I screamed for help, but no one came. The whole village was there, standing in the darkness with lantern, looking at me like I was a snake. They took me to the mango tree near the old shrine. They tied me to it, and one of the men brought a yellow container of kerosene. He said, "Pour it on my head," and it smelled so strong, it made my eyes water. I was shaking, crying, begging them not to kill me. But they said, if I was truly a witch, the fire would not burn me. I closed my eyes, thinking that was the last moment of my life. Suddenly, a voice shouted, "Stop!" It was Mama Ovie, the oldest woman in the village. She pushed her way through the crowd and stood in front of me. She said, "If you kill this child, the ground will swallow you all." She is not a witch. She is only hungry, only alone. There was silence. The man holding the matchstick looked at the others. No one spoke. Finally, they dropped the matchstick, untied me, and left me there, covered in kerosene and tears. That night, Mama Ovie took me to her house. She washed me, gave me water to drink, and put me to sleep on a mat beside her. I was shaking all night. I could not forget that smell of kerosene and the way they all looked at me. But I was alive. The morning after they tried to burn me, I woke up on Mama Ovie's mat. My body felt heavy, like I had stones on my chest. My eyes were swollen, and my wrists hurt where the rope had cut into me. Mama Ovie gave me warm water with bitter leaves inside. She told me, drink, it will clean your stomach. I drank it even though it tasted bad. She tied a wrapper around my waist because my clothes were dirty from the kerosene. I stayed in a small mud house. It smelled of wood smoke and dry herbs hanging from the ceiling. I could hear the chickens outside pecking at the ground. I did not know what to do, so I just sat there quiet. Mama Ovie told me to follow her to the farm the next day. We walked through the red sand paths, passing palm trees and thick bushes. She walked slowly, using her stick to push the grass away. She showed me how to plant cassava and yam. She said, you must press the soil down so the yam can breathe. I did not know why, but I felt safe on that farm. When I pressed the soil, I felt like I was pressing my fear down. At noon, we would sit under the mango tree and eat garri with water. She would hum song, and sometimes she would tell me stories about when she was young, how she came to Okpako after marrying her husband. She had lost all her children and now she lived alone. One day, I asked her, Mama, why did they call me a witch? She looked at me for a long time, but she answered, because people fear what they do not understand. They are angry and scared, and it is easy to blame a child who has no one. I started helping Mama Ovie with selling vegetables at the market. But when people saw me, they would still whisper, that is the witch girl. Some would not buy from Mama Ovie because of me, but she did not care. She would shout back, she is not a witch. She is my daughter now. At night, I would sweep Mama Ovie's compound and fetch water from the well. I would look at the moon and think about my mother and father. I wonder if they were looking at me from the sky. I missed them so much that sometimes I would cry quietly so Mama Ovie would not hear. One day, Mama Ovie gave me a small mirror. She said, look at yourself. I looked, and I saw a thin girl with short hair and sad eyes. Mama Ovie said, you are not a witch. You are Ejiro. I touched my face in the mirror, and for the first time, I started to believe her. One morning, Mama Ovie woke me up before the sun came out. She said, today you will follow me to the market, but first we will go somewhere. I did not know where we were going. I tied my wrapper and followed her through the sand paths, passing the farm and the broken fences made of palm branches. We stopped in front of a small building with a thin roof that made noise when the wind blew. It was the village school. I had not been to school since my father died. When I saw the other children inside, holding slates and pencils, I felt my stomach turning. I wanted to run away, but Mama Ovie held my hand. The teacher, a tall man with a soft voice, came out. He looked at me and then at Mama Ovie. She said, please, let her learn again. She has nobody else. The teacher nodded. He said, sit inside. My legs were shaking when I walked in. The children looked at me. Some of them whispered, that is the witch girl. Others moved away from where I sat. The teacher wrote letters on the blackboard and I tried to follow. My hands were shaking and the letters looked like dancing sticks to me. But I tried. I wanted to learn again. I wanted to be like other children. When it was time for break, I sat alone under the tree, eating the garri Mama Obi packed for me in a small leaf. Some children came near and threw small stones at me. They called me witch. I looked down and tried not to cry. But then one girl came to me. Her name was Esosa. She had a bright smile and two missing front teeth. She said, "Can I sit with you?" I looked at her, surprised, and nodded. She shared her roasted groundnuts with me. She told me she liked my name. She said, "My mama says people lie when they are scared. Don't mind them." That was the first time in a long while that I had smile. After school, Mama Ovi was waiting under the tree. She held my hand and we walked back home. My feet were dusty and my eyes were tired, but I felt something warm in my chest. That night, I tried to write my name in the sand in front of Mama Ovi's house. The moon was bright and I could see the letters Ejiro traced again, until I could do it without looking. Mama Ovi came and saw me. She nodded and said, "You will not be small forever. One day, they will know your name and they will know you are not a witch." I looked up at the moon and felt tears in my eyes, but this time they were not from fear, they were from hope. Days passed and I started going to school every morning. I would sweep Mama Ove's compound, fetch water, and then walk to school with Esosa. She would hold my hands and we would laugh when we saw goats chasing each other on the road. I was learning how to read small words. I could write cat, dog, and my name without looking at anyone's slate. The teacher would nod at me, and sometimes he gave me an extra piece of chalk to practice on the floor at home. But one cold morning, I woke up and found Mama Ovi coughing. She was sitting by the fire, holding her wrapper tight around her shoulders. Her eyes were tired and her voice was weak. "Mama, are you okay?" I asked. She tried to smile. "I am strong, my child." But she was not strong. The cough became worse. At night, I would hear her coughing and gasping for air. I tried to boil hot water and rub her back. I did not know what else to do. One evening, she could not get up from her mat. I ran to the neighbors, but they shook their heads and closed their doors. They still called me a witch. They said if they helped me, something bad would happen to them too. I ran to the teacher's house crying. He followed me back to Mama Ovi's house. He helped her sit up and gave her some herbs to chew. He told me to boil water and keep her warm. That night, I sat beside Mama Ovi, holding her hand. Her hand was cold and her breathing was slow. She looked at me with her tired eyes and said, "Ejiro, you are strong. You will live, even if I live." I shook my head, crying, "No, Mama, don't leave me. You are all I have." She smiled, and a tear rolled down her cheek. She closed her eyes, and I felt her hand becoming heavy in mine. Mama Ovi died that night while I was holding her hand. The next morning, the teacher helped me bury her near the mango tree. the same tree where they once tried to burn me. We dug the earth and I placed a wrapper and the small mirror she gave me inside the grave. I stood there looking at the red earth covering her, and I felt empty, like the world had swallowed me again. The villagers stood far away, whispering. They said, "She killed Mama Ovie too," but I did not care anymore. I knew Mama Ovie loved me, and she was not afraid of me. That night, I slept alone in her house. I was scared, but I remembered her words. "You are strong." I closed my eyes and held onto that. After Mama Ove died, the house felt empty. At night, the wind made the zinc roof cry, and I would cover my ears, pretending Mama Ove was still there, humming her soft songs. But the next morning, I stood up, washed my face in the clay, and swept the compound. I fetched water and boiled yam for myself. I went to the farm alone, carrying Mama Ove's old basket on my head. At the farm, I planted cassava, pressed the earth down with my feet, and cleared weeds under the sun. Sometimes I would stop and cry, wishing Mama Ove was there to guide me. But I kept going because I remembered her words, "You are strong." I started going to the market again with vegetables. I would sit in a corner with my small heap of okra and ugu leaves. People would still whisper when they saw me, saying, "That witch girl is back." Some would spit on the ground near me, but some women, especially the old ones, would buy from me quietly. Each time I sold something, I hid the money inside my wrapper. I was saving 1 naira at a time. After some weeks, I had enough to buy a small pencil and a used exercise book from the teacher's wife. That evening, I sat under the mango tree, writing my name, Ejiro, over and over, filling the page. At night, I would read the small words I learned at school, whispering them to myself under the moon. Those moments felt like a small light in the darkness, but the villagers did not stop. One morning, as I was carrying vegetables to the market, a group of young boys blocked me on the path. They said, "You are a witch. You killed your parents. You killed Mama Ove. Go away before you kill us too." They pushed me, and my basket fell, vegetables rolling in the sand. I wanted to cry, but I held back my tears. I picked up my vegetables, dusted them off, and stood up. I said, "I will not leave. This is my home too." They laughed and threw sand at me, but I walked past them, holding my basket tightly. When I reached the market, my hands were shaking, but I sat down and sold my vegetables. Some women looked down at me with pity, but no one said a word that day. I sold everything I brought. When I walked back home, I was tired, but I felt something strong in my chest. For the first time, I knew I was not going to run anymore. No matter what they called me, I was going to live. That night, I looked at the stars and whispered, "Mama, I did not run." One day, a man came to our village on a bicycle with a small black radio tied to the back. He was a traveling teacher sent from the town to help children who could not go to school every day. He had a calm voice and kind eyes. He saw me sitting by the market, reading my old exercise book, whispering the words I had learned. He stopped and asked, "What is your name?" I looked up, scared, but I said, "Ejiro." He smiled and said, "Do you like to learn?" I nodded. He told me to come to the village square every Saturday with other children to learn new words and numbers. That Saturday, I went holding my pencil and exercise book tightly. When I got there, other children moved away from me, whispering, "Witch." I felt my stomach twist, but I stayed. I sat alone, listening to the teacher. He has taught us how to read and write longer sentences. The teacher noticed how fast I was learning. One day, he said, "Ejiro, will you read aloud for everyone today?" My hands were shaking and my voice was small. I stood up and held my book. I read slowly. My name is Ejiro. I am not a witch. I am a girl. There was silence. The children looked at me, some with surprise, some with soft eyes. The teacher nodded and said, "Thank you, Ejiro." One evening, as I was walking home, I saw a small girl sitting alone under a tree, crying. Her name was Evie. Her mother had died, and the people were calling her a witch too. I sat beside her, just like Esosa once sat with me. I held her hand and said, "You are not a witch. You are a child like me." She looked at me with tears in her eyes, and I saw myself in her. I decided that I would protect her just as Mama Ovi protected me. The next morning, I took Evie with me to the market. We sold vegetables together, and when people whispered, I held her hand tighter. We walked past them, heads high, not looking back. That evening, I took her to the mango tree, the same place they tried to burn me. I touched the tree and told her, "They tried to end my life here, but I am still here. We are still here." I looked at the sky, the stars blinking above us, and I felt Mama Ove close to me. I was no longer just the witch girl. I was Ejiro, and I was free.